What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NoCo, a podcast about Northern Colorado and everything in there. I'm your host, Ivan Wayne. Enough with the intro, let's get on with it. Rockin' and rollin' into this episode, it is Ryan Duarte, lead singer, guitarist, pianist, music aficionado, and his band's name is Post Paradise. If you've not heard them, you may not have. You should definitely go check them out. They're on Spotify, probably on YouTube, all over the place. They're a rock group coming straight out of Fort Collins. Ryan was, kind enough and giving enough to meet with me after work at the Museum of Science and Discovery in Fort Collins. And please excuse the several after hours and closing museum announcements that you'll hear in the background during our conversation. No way to get around those. Okay, here I sit live at the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery in an unused classroom here with Nick Duarte, lead singer and I assume other roles?
Yeah, guitar, piano, all that fun stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
Post Paradise, band out of Fort Collins here. So thank you for joining me.
Absolutely, yeah. Glad we found a time.
Yeah, making time here after work on a Wednesday evening. So I guess let's jump right in. Post Paradise, based out of Fort Collins. When did you all start? And
we just had our 10th anniversary, actually, which is kind of crazy even as I say it. Yeah, 10 years of the same project, which has been awesome because it was something I kind of started for fun, way back when, after moving to Fort Collins and seeing that the music scene here was really just receptive. Like when I was super young, I was in Florida, ran a band down there, and it was not what you would call a cooperative music scene. And then I came out here, and there's something in the air in Colorado. People really put their creative endeavors first, or at least it's just the mentality out here. It seems like that community really focuses on, or they put a lot of focus onto creative endeavors. So, people come out to shows. You make fans, you make friends, the community builds, and that's just been kind of what we've been doing over the years. And then, about 8 years ago, we started getting in the van and driving long distances and doing Midwest and East Coast and crazy stuff and going down to South by Southwest for probably 5 years in a row and just, bouncing around all over the place. And now after a decade, it's like looking back on it, there's so much in this town, outside of this town. Like it's just been such a crazy ride.
Right.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Here I am. Still doing it. Working on a new record now, so.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? You got a new album? You said before we started recording here, you're about halfway through it?
Yeah, pretty much. Probably about 18 months ago, I got back into piano. I hadn't played piano probably with any kind of, intention since college, and, music theory and things like that. So it was basically just for fun, something to kind of, take around, a little practice keyboard, this little like travel guy that I had with me. And I just started writing all this crazy stuff. And having written on guitar for so many years, piano is just such a different animal. It's the different rhythms, different tempos. Naturally, your guitar, I've been playing for 20 years. So it sits a certain way in your hands and you strum a certain way. And it gives you this certain feel. And to be completely out of that comfort zone really just, I don't know, it came up with ideas that I wasn't, they were new to me, felt new and exciting, so I just really chased that, down that rabbit hole. And yeah, so it's still a Post Paradise record for sure. But we're working probably on anywhere between 15 and 20 songs right now, trying to whittle it down, see which ones are going to be good, which ones, fit the kind of sound of the overall like theme of the album, what's going on there. And so it's really, it's coming together, and I'm not trying to force it. Obviously, it's been 18 months. If we were like in a hurry, we would have done, pick 5 songs in 6 months and put an EP out or something like that. But this is more like I really, you can see the industry going more towards that, singles and just one song at a time. And I'm still just I want to put out something artful and complete. And that's kind of what our fans know to expect from us. It's just we're not really doing what everybody else is doing. And yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the spirit of the album seems to have died a little bit.
Yeah, it's, I think it's attention spans in a lot of way too. And we've never been the kind of band that's going to write like a, feel good summer anthem or something like that. I don't know. It's just like, we're not that kind of, like, we're not a, One Direction's got that covered. Like, they can do the stuff for the under 18, tween girls and that kind of stuff. But, I don't know. We like, the lyrics are usually pretty involved and, if not textural and I mean, it's not like blatant or anything like that, but I like that there's a little bit of work people put into really getting something out of our music. I don't know, that maybe that makes it sound bad, like that it's not immediately, grasped or something.
No.
But it's just, it's nice to know that the people who are really our super fans, like, they just consume the music in a different way. They kind of understand the whole feel of the album thing and like why we put them out that way,
right? Which
is pretty cool because it's a snapshot of your life in that amount of time when you write that many songs and this many ideas and those themes and stuff. And it's definitely coming together into one cohesive product this time around. So,
right. Yeah. Watch the table a little bit.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No, yeah. I've had my first interview was full of table slamming. So, yeah. Now singles have. Has that ramped up in popularity to release singles? I feel like that's been done for a while,
forever,
right?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that usually you'll have, labels used to release a single to get interest into the record because that was the product. You're trying to get people to buy this piece of plastic or this piece of vinyl or this cassette, so it was like, okay, here's the single that's on radio. You hear it all the time. And before downloading was really a thing, that's what the single was about. It was to basically like the first foray into the record or the band, if they're a new band, that kind of thing. And then they go buy the 13 songs and, they might become a fan or it's just, one hit wonder kind of thing. You never know. But that, there's so many records I bought over the years that would be like, oh, this band's going to be great. And then you come to find out like, not so good. So, in recent times now, since people aren't buying records, obviously, or CDs, I should say, and albums, it's mostly just singles and streaming and things like that. It kind of means that the single is the only thing. You don't need to sell 12 other songs along with it. So it's like, why put the effort into that thing unless you actually have something to say? So that's pretty much the way it goes.
Right.
Then you run into bands like 21 Pilots or something like that are still, putting out albums because they're going to have 5 singles on that disc and people are actually going to buy the vinyls of it. And, so in the big industry, it's still being done. But people at our level where it's still just indie, you're kind of booking your own tours, self-managing, that kind of stuff. Even with management companies or labels, they'll just have you do EPs because it's not as much of a, outpouring of money to record, 3 songs as it is to do 12 because you're just going to have a 6-month life cycle because people, their attention spans can't support much longer than that without, putting out fresh content, new videos and all that kind of stuff. Right. So it's kind of crazy, keeping up with where the industry goes and then, what your fans are doing and finding where it intersects. And yeah, a lot of learning happens.
Right. And I feel like streaming and just music is more accessible now. Live music is always been accessible, but like to get music and we have it all on our phones at all times. I think that has also kind of given rise to this singles mentality and making playlists. And
totally.
That you don't have to follow the layout of an artist, which I'm not saying is good or bad. I definitely am kind of alone in this group of people who, when an album, not necessarily alone, but not very often do I hear people who go out and look for albums, right? And like, if an artist I enjoy drops an album, I like to listen to the whole thing through, preferably without interruption, because I feel like that's the way it's been designed. And I feel like there's a big shift, and I don't know if that's hard for you all up and coming to kind of combat that, if you've experienced that. And
a little bit, yeah. It's because you're right. It is like playlists are the thing, curated playlists, and having all the you go on Spotify and people have their 4 or 5 playlists they'll listen to, and they religiously, like, as they get things get added. It's just it's a trusted thing. It's like the person at a record store 20 years ago. You could go, hey, what's new, or people would follow artists from a certain label. You know what I mean? It's like it's just having a little bit of that legwork done for you. and similar styles. And now what's crazy is that it's a lot of it's algorithms. You know, if you've listened to these 50 songs, you're probably going to like these two, you know, and then they can kind of do it that way. So in a lot of ways, I mean, music discovery has never been at a better point. Like, you're going to find more stuff that you're going to like probably instantly than ever before with more ease, you know, and it's a lot more readily available. Most of the time it's free, which is even crazier. So, which is not a bad thing for us, as I see it. You know, talking about our Here Come the Wolves, the song on Spotify, our top one. I don't even know what it's up to, 15,000 plays or something, you know, from whenever. But what's interesting is that you can see when one of your songs might get added to a playlist, because you'll see the plays, you know, get a big boost, and you're like, oh, we're on some Discover something up and coming playlist or whatever, which is rad, because people will find that and then they hear the name a couple times, and the hope is, you know, they will actually go to the website or they'll listen to, you know, more of our specific albums, find more songs they love. And we're in the business of making fans, not selling music, if that makes sense. I mean, I know music is the product, music is the thing, but in recent years, at least, like it's become apparent to me that where I get the fulfillment from the whole thing is having that community and going out. Like, we've been working on the record this year. We haven't been doing as many shows, and it's tough when you're not in front of people all the time, because that's when you interact with these people. You know, we go to Madison, Wisconsin. You know, we have a great little following out there, and I haven't seen those people in close to a year now, and it's almost just like, I hope they remember us, you know, like, and keeping track of everybody. And we still do our newsletters and things like that. And we've got some friends in another band that do really well on Patreon, and they were trying to get us to do that because they love that. That's the way they kind of keep in touch with their fans, and they're super fans. They do podcasting and stuff like that too, and release it over the Patreon thing. So there's ways to keep connected.
Attention FC Mob visitors, the museum
there it is.
The museum is closed.
There you go, in internet land. The museum is now closed.
Have a great night.
So, you know, yeah.
Do you feel like your fulfillment or the strategy that you've taken with Post Paradise would have been different 30 years ago?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Because we could have probably made more money. I think when it comes down to it. Because, you know, you get to a point where you do have a decent following and you can hit the road and play to a bunch of people, and people come out to see you, and you're selling a bunch of merchandise. I mean, which merchandise is one of the things that keeps us afloat when we're on the road. I mean, that's how we afford hotel rooms and stuff like that. And so we're not like sleeping on floors all the time anymore. So it's just a much different industry where you always technically could have done it on your own, but without the internet as a tool for reaching lots of people 30 years ago, you need labels and their marketing budgets and their distribution, and because you want to get your album in stores, because otherwise how are people going to buy it and things like that. So it was much more of a give and take. Now, you know, that's sort of how you get on curated playlists, is if you got to be on the right label, and you got, you know, they find ways to, you know, make the business move forward regardless of what tools are available now. It's just easier for people than ever, who don't have that kind of backing or don't want to sacrifice their artistic vision, to go that route, to be able to have a business on their own. I mean, Amanda Palmer, I don't know if you read her book or any of that stuff, Dresden Dolls, and she had the, I think maybe now it's the third highest Kickstarter thing. You know, she was looking for some set of money, you know, in the tens of thousands of dollars or something to finish her record, and then ended up getting, you know, over $1 million. That was the first, I think, to break $1 million on Kickstarter. Don't quote me, but something like that. And now she's got a whole book on how it all came to be, and just her, you know, run-ins with the major label industry and that whole thing, and how it was just this weird, you know, she's engaging her fans on Twitter, and the record label people are like, what's Twitter? Just make a single. That's all we want you to do. Just write a single. She's like, well, I've got 12 songs here, none of them as a radio single, but, you know, I've got 100,000 fans. Like, you know, they sold 20,000 copies of their first record, I think, on the label, like within a week. And the label's just like, that's a failure. Pull it. And they basically just dropped the whole thing, like stopped putting any money into advertising because that was a failure. 20,000 records in 1 week for them, which for her,
right.
On her indie thing, and then signed this deal thinking like this is going to be great. It's like we've never dreamed they could do that many records. And then that was, just this abysmal thing that got dropped, and just it's mind blowing. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's better for it. Like they're doing great now.
Yeah.
But it's just, you read those things and, whatever broke a band yesterday will not break a band today or tomorrow. You're always kind of running your own race. Which is the way I try to see it anyway.
Right.
It's a PR. It's not you're not competing for fans because it's just, you might be competing for playlist spots or things like that, but that's not really the world we live in. We're always trying to bring other bands with us to the shows and check these guys out. They're new from Denver and this is a thing. Cause it's part of that community. You share fans, you share the energy. It's a cool thing. And sometimes, business gets in the way of that.
Right.
But
because liking a band is not exclusive. Just because I enjoy one act doesn't mean I wouldn't listen to another. So
totally,
I like that.
Totally.
That non-competitive against other music acts mentality.
Yeah.
So
it's good to be a little bit of, you always have to have in the back of your head, like what people are doing. Like, oh, this person did this video and they're doing this kind of tour. Cause it's a little bit of that, like, I bet we could do that. You do kind of like build off that. And that's what, this scene has been really, really good. Fort Collins has been an amazing scene as long as I've lived here. And Denver is, great. So many bands, more venues than Austin, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, there was a report that came out, I think it was last year or something like that. And then Colorado Springs, we've been playing down there a bunch because it's a different kind of style of scene down there, but they've got a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. Just, getting people out to shows and enjoying good music.
Yeah.
Because really that's what it's about. So,
how would you summarize the Colorado Springs area as being different? How's it seem different?
It's like harder rock, I would say. It's more like the not really metal, because there's metal everywhere. You always have pockets, but like in Fort Collins, for example, it's definitely an indie vibe. And there's a lot of bluegrass, there's a lot of like indie bluegrass, there's a lot of just people who take genres and they just, mix them around and add instruments and that kind of thing. I still classify us as more of like an alternative rock band. It's still, we throw around the term indie just because we're independent and we have a lot, like there's a lead cellist in the band, you know what I mean? It's not the kind of thing that you normally come across. So there's a little bit of that, like it's not straight up rock, but like the Springs is straight up rock. Okay. For sure. Like it's that kind of a thing, which is good for us because we normally fit in really well with those crowds because people, they want to see rock and roll show. That's what we do. We just I'm playing piano and Amy's playing cello and then we're doing this thing. And, so there's just it's just a little bit of, an energy shift, something like that. But it ends up being really fun bringing what we do, down to those crowds. And then Denver, there's just everything,
Right.
So many bands and so many of them are fantastic. And this is just, the rock world I'm talking about. It's crazy. There's so much stuff.
Right.
So
it's interesting that Fort Collins is said to have more venues than Austin because Austin, Texas has such a notoriety for music and independent music scene. And
totally.
So it's interesting to me in all things how some places will get a label or a vibe that they are X or that they are definitely this type of thing or not. So I'm curious, given a couple more years, if some sort of Fort Collins music reputation gets out there.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
It has been, for sure. There's more and more times we'll travel and we meet bands and, Fort Collins, okay. Because we're definitely a secondary market. Denver's the main place. And that's because if you think about where we are geographically, when tours come through, they're either going to go, south through Texas or pretty much through Denver and then Salt Lake and then to the West Coast. So we're kind of a hub in a lot of ways, but it's easy to avoid Fort Collins because Denver's the place you would always go. But we have a lot of like venues like Washington's, for example, that just opened up down the street. They are really, they're kind of bringing in a lot more of those medium to upper level touring acts because it's still only, I think, about 1,000 capacity. But the light show they have, the video recording capabilities, audio recording capabilities, it's kind of this, you can film a live DVD there. Like you could get a band that maybe could sell 3,000 seats in Denver to do here instead, because they can still bring a lot of people and have this really crazy intimate concert experience and use it as part of their marketing later, or those types of things. So there's little tricks that can be done and you know, to get some of the bigger artists to come through, and then that just bolsters the local community because you get locals to open for those acts and things like that too. So, and really it's just what it comes down to out of here is just the talent. You know, you get enough bands here that are able to do it on a national level and being from here. And that is another thing that'll put, you know, the city on the map. But
Right.
yeah, it's been good. Hopefully, like you said, a few years it'll be even better, you know?
Yeah. So, for our listeners, if you've not heard of Post Paradise, if you've not heard their music, I want you to pause real quick.
I would like that too.
I want you to roll to a place where you're comfortable listening to Post Paradise. Nick, if you had 2 songs you want them to listen to, what would that be?
I actually would say Here Come the Wolves, which is the first one that'll pop up on Spotify. And what would be another of my favorites to do? Probably The Light You Follow.
Okay, so The Light You Follow and Here Come the Wolves. Pause, go check them out. All right, now that you're back, so let's move more into...
I love podcast time. Yeah, it's great.
Right. Yeah, this is... we're going on a culture of trust here. We're going to trust that they did their homework.
That's right.
I want to dive right into your band.
Sure.
The first thing I was struck by was the cello, and just I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
I just knew your name, and when I knew I was going to sit down with you, I was like, I got to check these people out. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, wow. I'm not being hired to endorse you at all. This is not a puff piece. I really enjoyed it. And awesome. I just kind of thought, how have I not already heard of them? So can you kind of, I don't know if you all have a mantra or if your sound, I'm sure your sound wasn't accidental, but if you could kind of talk to kind of like the sound of your band.
Totally.
I really enjoyed it.
So years and years ago, I was in Orlando for a show, seeing a band called Cursive. And they've been around for, 20-something years, whatever, from Omaha. But for one record, they had a cellist. And it was, like, totally different than what we do. Very, very kind of underground indie, even for 2003, like, whenever that record came out. But it was just, I saw the live show, and it always stuck with me. I was like, that was super cool. Just this crazy thing, she's rocking up there in this cello. Like, that's awesome. So fast forward, 5-6 years later when Post Paradise is in my brain, like I didn't have a name for the band yet. I just knew Fort Collins is awesome. I want to do a band. Started playing with some people, just putting a thing together from some songs I'd written. And I thought, rather than hiring a second guitarist or finding another thing like that, which is just what everybody does, like, this is just for fun. Let's just see if there's any cellists that would want to do this thing. I have no idea how to amplify it. I don't know what it's going to be. And like I said, I already had some songs kind of written, like 5 or 6 things just to see what's going on. So, I ended up finding Amy online, just, basically cold calling emails like, hey, I'm putting a band together. I see you play cello. Would you want to, audition for this? And
how'd you know
whatever.
That you played cello? Was it?
It was just like a search on, it was, Facebook or MySpace, I think, back in because it was 2008 we were doing this. And I typed in Fort Collins and cello.
Of history, folks.
No kidding, right? Everyone's going to have to stop and look that up. What was that thing? Yeah. She responded. She's like, sure, I'll, come to your creepy basement and play some songs and with these people, of course. But I remember she came over and I just had an acoustic at the time and I wrote out some stuff for her. I hadn't written bass clef probably in years and was, let's see if hope this works. And so she just kind of sight read some things some ideas that I had as I played acoustic, and it was really, really cool. And of course now it's old hat to us, like playing together. But at the time it was just one of those like, this is cool. I mean, cello's one of those instruments, as I'm sure you discovered. It's like it kind of speaks to you a little bit. It's in that frequency range of the voice too, so it really has this. I don't know, it just resonates with a lot of people, which is awesome. So yeah, over the years, we just kind of, she had only played classically at first, like up until that point. So this was kind of a totally new thing for her, but she'd kind of also given up on playing because, she went to CSU at first for performance and then just kind of got really sick of it. She's like, I don't want to play in orchestras and sight read these things and So now she uses, it's a means of expression for her. She writes her own parts now. It's not like I'm writing anything, for anybody that way. If ideas pop up, we'll kind of like work through things to see, get the best like melodies and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just kind of like, jamming things out and having a cello shred over your songs. And it's like, yes, it's just, when it really works, it works so well. It's just undeniable.
Yeah. Was there a process of her melding to play the cello in a rock group and mesh to those songs coming from a classical background?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know. The cello is just such a different style of instrument. It's the bowing and the little tremolo things you can do, and there's so much just to that instrument as it is that's different than guitar or piano or just any other type of like the way it's played. So it took a lot for me to kind of learn how she plays, and for her it was kind of just like how do I make this a part of the music rather than just like either background or something that sticks out so much that it doesn't actually fit with the song, that kind of thing. So it's been a process. And as well, she plays an electric cello now through a whole bunch of effects, big pedal board and everything like that, whereas before it was just the acoustic cello, and we'd have a little pickup that would, go onto the bridge of the thing. But with a loud rock band, we've got bass amps on stage, guitar amp, drum set, everything, and it's super loud usually in these clubs. The cello would feedback like crazy because of just how loud everything needed to be, and then she couldn't hear herself, so the monitoring became a thing. So we're in a really good place now where like the electric cello doesn't feed back because it looks like a crossbow almost. It's just like a stick with things jutting off, and really, really cool. So a lot of learning.
So does the electric cello make noise in front of you, or is it just recorded noise?
It's actually, so what it's designed, she's using a Yamaha right now. It's just a silent cello, and it's actually made to be a practice cello. So like cellists and philharmonics can put their headphones in, plug into the back of this thing with batteries, and then play. And
nobody can hear it.
Exactly. So if you're standing in front of it, you still hear what's going on, but it's not. The body of a regular cello is meant to resonate and fill rooms. So that's why they're constructed that way. They're also made to resonate, which is the problem of putting an end pin basically on top of the subwoofer of a stage and just expecting it not to go crazy feedback on you.
Right. So when she plays on stage now, it feeds to the speakers. Yeah,
so she actually runs it through a big pedal board with all kinds of effects and things she can do, and then to an amplifier that's behind her.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, and then they take like a line off. She has a direct output from the pedals, and then they mic the amp usually too. So they have all kinds of tonal possibilities to make it sound more like a real cello, because it's still what we're going for, and it does a really good job. But we add reverb, and she's got an EQ and stuff like that just to make sure.
If your name is not Nick Duarte, please call the front desk.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
We have VIP access.
They know I'm staying. Yep,
that's right.
Staying late.
So you had mentioned that you wanted to return, maybe not return, but you wanted to focus more on a piano vibe on this hotly awaited album that is
mostly
coming
by me
soon to the masses.
I can't wait to put it out.
What was like? I assume that was intentional. Like, what was there a part of your music where you just felt like something was missing and the keys needed to be there? Or
I think you always end up trying to outdo what you did before. And this last record that we did was, I'm so proud of it. This was Bring It to Life side A and B. We released it as 2 6-song EPs.
Admin has a lot of people in it, including Shannon.
The magic of real life recording.
And Michael.
that is okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the last record we did, the two EPs, Bring It to Life, side A and side B, we worked with a new producer named Andrew Berlin.
Thanks, and have a good night.
So we worked with
doing it live
producer, that we'd never we'd known of him before, but he's in town at the Blasting Room here where we decided to make that record, and Amy actually had worked with him on the band Rise Against. They record there, so she played cello on their last the Black Market record. And so she was just like, Andrew he was so awesome to work with. I love the cello tone he got, that kind of thing. So we just made this really what I think, like for us, it was the rock sound we've always kind of been trying to get to. Just really the mix was great. The ideas were great. It just really coalesced into this awesome thing. And they were all pretty much love songs too, which is kind of interesting. So it's this hard hitting record of love songs, but just in this rock style with the cello doing its thing. And, so I was really, really proud of that. And then it's like, all right, cool. We've been like trying to get to that sound and we finally did it. And I'm happy with it. I got it out of my system. It's like, yes. And then you're like, well, now what? Cause you do 6 months later, you start getting the bug. It's like, all right, I haven't put anything out. I haven't created something. I just need to kind of get that, like flex that muscle again. Mm-hmm. And the piano really was the placeholder for that kind of, energy for me to pour it into. It's just coming up with these crazy, piano riffs for lack of a better term, and at first, it took a long time to actually figure out how to even turn them into songs. And then Post Paradise songs, like to bring it into the band and all these things. So it was kind of a personal journey for me at first. And now we've got probably 3 or 4 of them that we've been playing, in the sets, like playing live just to see how it goes over with the crowds. And there's definitely been a couple standouts, it's pretty cool. It's a different vibe. And I think people are responding like really, really well to it because they still rock, but it's a little different. It really is.
So do you get reactions from the crowd and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to keep this part, but this one didn't get as much of a reception? Or do you judge them at like the whole song level?
Yeah, it's not really that. If we were trying to make $1 million doing this, I probably would get a little more, evaluation data kind of thing. Right. But it's mostly just like, we'll play these songs and sometimes I'm even switching lyrics as we go, like second verse might not even be done yet. And I'm trying out a new verse thing. And mostly that's just to see how I feel about it. And I just noticed that there have been times when we have new songs before where, people would come up and say, oh, I like this new thing. Or I knew this, this new one sounded cool. But with this one, there's, 2 of them in particular we've been playing that like pretty much every show. Those are the 2 that people come up and we won't even say sometimes that they're new. It's just like, oh, this is the one. Like this is, if it happens once, you're like, okay, whatever. But like, it's awesome. People like it. But it's been like over the past probably 3-4 months of trying some of these out. It's just really cool. It's nice to know, like, all right, maybe what I use that info more of like, or maybe I'll do a music video for this song instead of this one, because at first you don't really know. So I'll put a little more money into making more marketing efforts on this track if it's more wide ranging appeal, So it's more like, I want to take the stuff that we're creating and make sure the right people hear it. It's not really like, I want to make a thing that people want to hear. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a cart before the horse, I guess. Like I love when people like our music and listen to it and buy it and share it. But I'm not writing music so that they will, if that makes sense. It's like we're doing the thing we do. And it's really just like I hope people get into it. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bad businessman, but
no, makes sense.
It's still I grew up in the 90s, man. Like it was just the artistic expression was everything about music, and money be damned, which it's not really the way things. You go on any music blog now, and it's all about how to make money off of how to do this and how to squeeze every dollar out of it, which is great because it just means that there are so many more people who are able to do it on their own and make a living, which is fantastic. But I'm willing to take a little less, knowing that I am putting out something that is like, this is exactly what I wanted it to be, and even if it doesn't resonate with people, art's supposed to be truth. You know what I mean? And I don't want to do something that's not truth just because it might make a little more money. I don't know.
Right.
It's a weird thing to say out loud, but
no, absolutely not. No, it's your truth. It's
exactly.
It's Post Paradise's truth.
Exactly.
You don't want to bend to some other entity's will, and you don't want to write songs that aren't you. Or, what's the point? The kind of argument is the point is that you get filthy rich, but
right.
You didn't get into this band because you wanted immense wealth.
Yeah.
You got into it because you had an itch that needed to be scratched, and that was rock music.
That's still my thing, man. Yeah. That's why I work other jobs, like I'm this music curator at the museum here and, do all that stuff. And which in a lot of ways is a dream job because they let me, take time off to tour and I can still, it's part of my musical life. Everything I do now is music. So it's cool.
Yeah. That's neat. So before you knew you wanted to reach out and add something else, aka cellist, in the original mix, why rock? Has rock always been like your go-to genre? What are some influences or inspirations that kind of led you to that first basement meeting?
That's it's a funny question, honestly. We do a lot of interviews, and that's one that never, because usually if you're a rock band, people just, they're rock critics or something, you know what I mean? But to think about it in terms of that, and I hadn't actually thought about why rock is my thing until very recently, like with the piano stuff, because I listen to other bands and other genres of stuff that do things totally differently. And I always have a habit, I guess, towards a certain type of song or a certain type of feel or that type of thing. And I think it really did come from like the music my mom listened to when I was growing up, because she was very much in the rock vein. And when I started buying my own music, and I'm getting into bands like the Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana, obviously, and Soundgarden and all this stuff, and just a myriad of others. That was the kind of thing that I really latched onto, and I couldn't really tell you why it was what spoke to me. But I think, people hit that like 11 to 13 age, and it's just kind of whatever's around them is the thing that like they start soaking in, that kind of, I don't know, those genres or that style of instrumentation and things like that. And so that was it was in a lot of ways my identity, like through high school. My friends, we were the rock crowd. We were, trading records and you got to listen to this and you got to listen to that. And we're, driving down the street blasting whatever at age 16, but it was always something rock, so that's probably where it just got so deeply ingrained in me that like, that's what I heard for so long. And you internalize it and you say, I could do that, or I could do this better, or I like this, but what if they did this? Or what if you took this kind of thing and did that to it? Or we put an orchestra behind this? Or what if you put electronic drums and just those types of, that's just what my mind does. It's always like bursting with these weird, let's try this next, just if only I had infinite time.
No, right.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe I'll get to the point like I did with this last rock record that, I want to do something totally different. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I can't say. It's definitely not like, I've known some bands that they get to a point where they're like, well, if this next record doesn't, break us into the mainstream, if we don't, do whatever, then we're done. And, Amy and I, we've been doing this, we're the only original members now, but, looking back, it's kind of like, I think the goal is kind of to be able to do this as long as we can. To be able to have that output. And it's crazy. I mean, some of the relationships we've made over the years and people you meet via this vehicle of this creative output thing is it's priceless. It really is. So
you ended up on stages and places and towns and talked to people you never would have talked to otherwise.
Absolutely not. Yeah. It's crazy.
And if nothing else, it's a life-enriching experience. And you get to play music that you love. You get to outpour your creative outlet. And
totally.
If you can do that and not go bankrupt, not break the bank, then
exactly.
I mean, you're living some level of dream.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's true.
There's no shame in that.
Yeah. It's wild.
You had mentioned that Amy and yourself are the only two original members, and we were discussing before the recording that you kind of gone through some different bass players and drummers. Yeah.
So. And now we've got it's kind of funny, the people we're playing with now, there's we're all in our 30s now, which is, it's just, you get to a different age and people get a little more consistent. Or I always said that like after 30, if people are still playing music, they know why they're playing music, and that's kind of a nice thing. So Brian, who's our bass player now, he and I played in a kind of a side project probably 5-6 years ago. Then we just got to kind of be buddies. And so, 3 years ago when our bass player left, he was the first person I called, and he didn't have a project at the time. And I'm thinking like, wow, he hasn't played in a band in a couple of years. Like he probably wants nothing to do with this. He like made it out, he's probably like loving it, like not having to worry about practice every week and traveling and sleeping on floors and all that stuff. But he was just kind of like, no, that sounds great. Let's do it. Like, so that was pretty awesome. And then, just last November, we lost our drummer, longtime drummer. So I called up a friend of mine who was living in Florida at the time, and we actually went to college together back when, and we're in a band for a couple of years after that. So I'm playing with him again now too. So it's kind of people I've played with in the past, and the vibe is in some ways better than it's been. It's really like we have a lot of spontaneity on stage now, and a lot of just, we still rehearse, but I'm just excited for every show, because it's like I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and I don't know. There's just the energy's different,
Right.
And it's every time you add a new member or you gain someone, you lose someone, things shift. And I can't say it'll always be this lineup, or who knows, anything happens. But it's as of right now, I'm just trying to enjoy it as much as I possibly can, because it's a special time for us right now.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So your current bassist joined you in November.
Bassist was 3 years ago, and then the drummer was November. Yeah.
Drummer was November.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of a fresh lineup. We're still enjoying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But working well.
Yeah. Really well.
That's sweet.
And the recording, making the record and stuff has been awesome.
Yeah. Do y'all record here in Fort Collins?
We do. Yeah. We a blasting room out on LaPorte over there. It's pretty nice. A world-class studio, which is awesome. And we've known a lot of the guys there for a while, so it's just a fun place. That's actually Digging Secrets. We recorded that one there. And,
okay.
And actually Bring It to Life, come to think of it. So, yeah, this will be our third record.
And those were your two first records, so you recorded there.
We did, yeah. We did one before that, which was called The New Normal, and I did that one myself. Like, we did that record all in this house we all lived in at the time, and it was pretty awesome. The whole basement was the studio, and I had a control room in the upstairs, and it was wild. It was like a 9-month process probably of like doing this record in between, working our day jobs and just regular life happening, and
right.
Super cool though. Yeah.
It's got to be hard to balance Post Paradise, not making
it's a full-time job,
right.
And then you have other full-time jobs,
and
then Amy does lessons. She teaches probably 24, 25 students right now, like cello, so that's kind of her gig, and so it's music is everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
We can't escape it even if we wanted to,
Right, yeah. What does your bassist and drummer do?
Bassist right now is working for Solar City, and then our drummer actually, he travels and does work at kind of like other events and things like that. Like he'll sell things at bike shows, that kind of stuff, or then he comes through and he was doing there were these photo booths. It was another company that kind of contracted him to bring these things up, and they set him up in like for weddings and things like that, or kind of like freelance work, those types of things. It's not always easy to find a job that'll let you take time off for 2 weeks in the studio to make a record, and 3 weeks to go out to this place or fly here, or South by Southwest, and so it's just we do what we can.
Yeah, it can be super hard to balance.
Yeah.
Like when you were saying that the Museum of Discovery here lets you take time off, that's invaluable.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And that was one of the things when they were hiring me too. I've been here 6 years, like kind of crazy, but was just saying, it's like, yeah, I'm a touring musician, and it's a great fit what I do here, and I'm really happy I get to do it, because it's dream job in a lot of ways, and they were totally fine with that. So
right,
there's the train. Speaking of,
you got a train rolling by here.
Can't avoid it.
It's going to go by the front of the building, right?
Yeah, it goes across.
Yeah. I don't think it's too loud.
Nah, it's been worse.
Right.
and here you are asking for, what's a nice quiet place? Well, this is
right. This is
announcements
and
trains. Yeah, totally.
That's okay. So you just sometimes you gotta roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of sitting here, packing up a laptop and a microphone, and going location to location, and figuring out what the hell I'm doing next.
Right on.
It's part of it.
It's kind of what we're all doing. I'm sure whoever's listening to this is thinking like, let's try to figure it. Make a buck over here, and then turn it into this. And who knows, man? You know,
Yeah.
we're all just trying to do what makes us happy.
Right. Well, if people prefer a stronger, edited, tight show,
Yeah.
maybe this is not. Maybe that's not the one for them. So you mentioned it a couple of times. The train is leaving us.
Yeah.
You mentioned Florida, and that's where you moved from. So what brought you out here to Fort Collins originally?
That was I was dating a girl in Florida, and she was going. She got into a grad school program out here, and my old band had just broken up. Floating around Florida, I was like, well, maybe I'll just, you're moving out to go do grad school. Let's do that. So I followed her out here, thinking, I know nothing about Colorado. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. It was very much a transitional time. And that relationship didn't work out, but I really liked the town, so decided to stay here.
And that was when?
That was probably about 2006, 2007, something like that.
2006,
Yeah. So I basically took a year off between bands. Came out here, and I was just like, well, I was doing, became the foreman for a stereo installer. So I was doing like high-end home theaters and things like that, like doing that install and programming crazy remote controls and just stuff that I could never afford, and playing with all those toys was a lot of fun. Yeah. So, and then I, realized that the music scene here was like way better than anything I'd ever been a part of, and I wanted in. So that was that.
You jumped in.
Jumped in.
That's neat. So you're only
Head
here about
first.
a year before you met up with Amy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much. It's crazy.
That's bold.
Yeah.
A lot of people are nervous to move, and you moved, and then you started this brand new project.
Yeah.
And that's super neat.
It was cool, actually. I've got a friend who does that. He bounces around every 5-6 years, and he always said, he was just like, it was so cool. As I was talking to you one day, and you're just like, I think I'm going to start a band. It's like, there's so much music in this town, like, there's so many musicians, let's just do it,
Right.
And then it's like, 2 months later, you've got a band. It's like, when I want to do something, I pretty much put all my resources towards, making it happen if I believe in it. So, yeah.
Right. That's neat. Yeah. Starting this podcast, I'm a Colorado transplant myself.
Yeah, I was going to say we haven't got to learn about you at all. I'm sure the other listeners, to previous episodes have.
Yeah.
But.
Well, if they've heard other episodes, they know exactly what I'm about to say right now, because it comes up in almost every freaking interview.
Oh, that's good.
But is that I'm from Oklahoma.
Right on.
And starting this podcast, I thought that I would end up interviewing more natives, and that would be an aspect I would run into, but.
A lot of transplants, I bet.
Majority transplants.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to hear everyone's story and how they ended up here.
Totally.
So you took to Fort Collins. The relationship ended, right?
Yeah.
And you decided to stay.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Was it?
She's now a PhD, doing well in Denver, so yeah.
Hey, there it is.
She's doing fine.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Cheers. So I guess the band, Post Paradise, you worked there. That kept you here. But were there other things about Fort Collins and Northern Colorado that just struck you or jumped out to you in addition to the music scene?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm here for other different reasons than why a lot of people are here, because all my friends and I'm getting into biking and stuff like that, but it was never my thing. Like people, they go mountain climbing, they're doing, bouldering, they're, doing crazy bike things or 10Ks or any of the outdoorsy stuff, which I'm usually in my room, in front of the laptop recording guitar and then grabbing the bass and then doing this, and trying. I'm much more an indoor kid in that respect, but the thing about Fort Collins was the community. It was the people. Because you play a show, you meet some people. You play a show, you meet some more people. You play a show, you talk to this person. Oh, you get an email from this. You invited to get that. Oh, you play with this band. Oh, these guys are great. Okay, you do a little traveling. You do some regional touring. You meet some people out there. After the probably 2012, 2011, something like that, we just put out our first full-length record. And it was just one of these things where there was this amazing community of people at every show. And, it's not just at our shows. We would play a show and these people come out, and then we would go to other bands' shows and hang out with those same people. And it was just this crazy give and take of just musical awesomeness almost all the time. And then you start going out and doing other things. You run into those people in the restaurant and you see them downtown. And so this whole, this city was just our playground. It really, really was. And I think there are a lot of different scenes, for lack of a better word. The filmmaking scene, the foodie scene, the restaurateurs, the brewers, all this stuff that also have that thing, and just the overlap is amazing, and that was one of the things that I had never, and maybe it's the population size here, maybe it's the layout, I don't know, but for some reason that works really, really well here, and we can still go downtown and I'll run into at least 2 people I know that I haven't seen in months, and have a quick catch up and then go about my day. And I love that. It's something I really, if I were to move now, I should say it would be tougher for me to leave here and start somewhere else, knowing that I've got 10 years worth of friends and stories and crazy history, around this place, that really keep me tied to this community.
Yeah.
So.
There's something interesting to the vibe of northern Colorado, that it's a bunch of big, small towns.
It's true. Yeah.
North of Denver here. And none of them are sprawling metros, but there are some tiny towns out there. But you got Loveland, Estes, Longmont.
They've all got their charm.
And they're all different, which is so neat. I thought I liked beer until I moved out here, and now I love beer because one of the scenes I was interested in when I moved out here was the brewery scene.
Yeah.
And living in Greeley, we got 6 now. So, and Fort Collins has that too.
Oh yeah, it's just 17 or something now, something
Yeah.
ridiculous. Well, yeah, and that was another thing actually that was cool. Like, I was never a drinker in Florida. Just,
Right.
it was like when you go to a show, you get Bud Light, Coors Light, Michelob Ultra. Like, those are your three options at every place. It's better now when I go back there to visit my parents and stuff. But so coming out here, it was just like, I don't really like beer. And they're just like, well, you got to try one of these, And now Odell's is like,
What is in this?
oh my God, can't get enough. But.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first moved here, the first place I chose to go in Greeley was Wiley Roots. There's a brewery out there, and it was just like a welcoming pad. That's probably colored the rest of my Colorado experience for sure.
That's awesome. Do you brew your own stuff? Or?
I don't. I've interviewed several brewers for the podcast.
Cool.
And one thing they all had in common was it started in their garage. They were home brewing.
Yeah.
And then they were like, shit, I want to do this for my job.
Totally.
And it worked out. Yeah, I don't know. I've always...
There's also no shortage of people to drink it.
Right.
That's the other thing, which is really good.
Yeah. I think... And it just brought up this thought. I think many of us, we will pick and choose the avenues in which we create things, but for most things, we will just consume. We'll enjoy the labor of others, and beer is definitely that way for me.
Yeah.
I know people who like to homebrew, and they've gotten into that, but for me, it was always just, I want to go have a drink at the place that it was made. And
I'd usually talk to the person that did it.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, Aaron Heaton from Grimm Brothers said that he's really felt this vibe from Northern Colorado that people want to know their brewer. It's almost like knowing the mailman or
A little bit.
knowing police officers in your community. Like, you just be plugged into the people around you. And,
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's no rule saying that you can't relate with or communicate with people who make the things that you like. So
And there's so many passionate people out here for whatever it is, music, podcasts, beer, it's super cool that you still have a lot of that hands-on product, and I love that. We had, do you remember Patero's Creek brewery? They closed down last year, about a year ago.
Oh, really?
Just rent prices and couldn't keep it going and that kind of thing, but they made us a beer back in 2015, I think, the Post Paradise Rye Pale Ale.
Shit.
And we actually got to go, we showed up at 8 a.m. with the brewer, and he's like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And he's got this special thing of hops and this stuff, and he's making the mash, and we're, doing videos and photos the whole time, and just watching it be made. And then they, designed the label and got it canned and everything, and it was in stores everywhere so people could actually buy it. And it was just such a cool thing, like merging those two things. And like, I've still got, we saved some cans of it so we could, it was
still
just a
have
limited
it.
run, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Super cool.
Dang.
Super cool.
Have y'all had any other partnerships like that?
No, I'd like to. I'd love to do it just because I love beer and I love, when Post Paradise gets its name out there. But
Right. What about your merch? Like, if you had any connections with T-shirt companies in Fort Collins or
not really.
Anything like that?
No, we're using this Cosmo screen printer, who's a friend of mine. I was in a band with him, side project thing years ago too. The guy that does that screen printing now. So That, and then another one in town, Wounded Heart Press, has been really good to us. But Amy she's a graphic designer, actually an interior designer, but she knows graphic design. So she does all of our logos and things like that. So we'll just kind of do all that in-house and then have people screen print them for us. But yeah, no partnerships, but never say never.
Right.
Because that kind of stuff, I love it.
You never know.
Exactly.
We
partnered for a music video one time with Limelight Fitness, which I don't know if it's still called that now. It's a new owner, but the previous owner, it was like one of those aerial fitness places, so like the pole dancing and the lira and the rings and all the stuff, like the silks, I guess they call them.
Right.
So we actually had two people come out from that studio, and we filmed them doing some stuff, and slow-mo and haze and fog and lights and all that kind of thing, and mixed it in with one of our videos for a song called The River, which was pretty sweet. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool people around town, so lean on each other's strengths,
No, that's really cool. Yeah, and we're glad to have Post Paradise in town. and my girlfriend, we listened. So on Thursday of last week, we went up to the Mishawaka for the first time.
Oh, I love that place.
Holy shit, what a venue.
So good.
How have I not?
So good.
How have I been here 4 years and I've never heard of it?
Oh, yeah, man. And Danny that owns the place, she used to run Spokesbuzz. I don't know if you ever heard about that. It's just that she has done so much for the music community out here. And she bought that place probably maybe 8 years ago now and just turned it around. Really, it's a piece of history. It really is. It's such an amazing venue, and yeah, to know that it's being run super well now. Like, we love playing out there. It's probably once every 2 years. It'll be a good fit, with a national coming through that we open for. But just being on that stage, the river's going underneath you, the wind, the breeze just going by. It's
everybody
wild.
Who spends some time in northern Colorado has to get out there. I mean,
totally. Even just go for lunch. It's it's delicious.
Yeah. If you can even just stand the band that you're going to see.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in love with them. I promise. It'll be a good time.
We saw Spoon out there last year. End of last year's season. And oh, man, it was like the sound was amazing. The band was amazing. It was just such a,
But, so I told my girlfriend driving up to the Mish that we'd be doing this interview for the podcast. Yeah. So we listened through like an album and a half.
Cool.
And she said, I cannot end this interview without asking you about future dates because we want to come to a show. Yeah. So, totally. As of today, what shows in the future do you have scheduled around town?
Yeah, so we've September 7th, which is actually this week. I don't know how.
So we're going to miss that.
Yeah, totally.
So for all the listeners, you missed a great show.
You missed it, yeah. Probably the best we've ever done. No.
Yeah.
That's just a big downtown Fort Collins, Old Town Square. We try to do one of those once a year too, because it's just you can fit a whole bunch of people in there, and it's just a really nice outdoor venue, and we really, really like playing out there. I don't think we have anything concrete that I can announce yet because nothing's signed and confirmed, and October 12th is in the works in Fort Collins. I can't name the venue or the band we'll be playing with, but I hope that it works. And if it does, you'll be seeing if you go to any of our social media or website or anything like that, we'll be plastering promo for it everywhere because it'll be a big one.
Right.
And aside from that, we're in recording mode, so it's tougher for me to switch gears these days because I get really, we tear apart our live rig and I use this thing here and bring this keyboard there and mic this thing up. So we're trying to do shows in chunks, and then take a few weeks off and work on the record and then go back to playing a little bit. So as of right now, not a whole lot, like I said, confirmed and in the works, but I would say we're just going to work on the record, and then we get show offers, and I'm like, well, we have to do that. So there'll be shows popping up for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so if people want to connect with you, website, social media,
website.
email, what's the best way for people to check you all out?
Website is always the safest just because it's the one that's in our control. That's postparadiserock.com.
Okay.
Postparadiserock.com. And aside from that, we are everywhere. If you Google Post Paradise, we're probably the first 12 pages that come up of just videos, interviews, websites, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So, whatever your social media of choice, we've been around long enough. I'm sure we're on it in Bandcamp, any of that stuff too. So
even went down with the battleship of MySpace.
Actually, we probably still have a page on that thing. Who knows? I don't even, because I know it's still like going. It's mostly like a blog space now or something. I don't know, but
my relationship with MySpace ended a few years ago when I thought, it'd be kind of neat to go back and see my old MySpace.
Yeah.
And I saw the things I had posted, and I said, nobody
Not
should ever lay
this,
eyes on this website again. So I shut that down.
Totally.
I don't know if you remember what Zanga was.
No, I don't
it's
think
like a live. It's like a blogging website where you could also put whatever music. For me, that was whatever emo, emotional,
sure.
music I was feeling that week, and I
yeah.
just gripe about my first world problems at 15. So Zanga was also deleted immediately after I saw the unrivaled embarrassment.
I do feel bad for the next generation that, Facebook is like, if their baby photos are on there, like you will never escape. Like your entire world will be in pictures.
Can't get away from
just forever. Yeah, exactly. And at least we're gonna have a little bit of like we'll be able to disappear into anonymity, as generations go on. But we might be the last generation that has that luxury. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's changing. Okay, well, we're going to let Nick get on with his evening here. Thank you for joining us after work here at the museum. And good luck, and hope to see you in a show soon.
Thanks, yeah. And, good luck with the rest of the podcasting. Sounds like a fun project.
It definitely it's similar to what you described. I was telling a friend that even if this podcast goes nowhere, I've been in front of people in places talking about things I never would have otherwise.
Totally,
it's a valuable experience.
And
for that,
the thing about success with any business, and this is the one thing that I have learned that I will forever say, it's the network. Be it if you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're a podcaster, if you're looking for a job at a grocery store, network. Meet people that do what you want to do, that have been where you want to be, that, all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what, this kind of thing is like people listen to podcasts because they want to learn about new stuff.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you just talk to people?
Yeah.
And we don't do enough talking, I think, these days,
Right, yeah. And for this podcast, I want people to get insights, but also have those insights be from someone they could run into, or they could go into the store here in Northern Colorado. So
I hope that if someone hears this and then they see me running around somewhere, they say, hey, I heard you on that podcast.
Hey, and the circle of life would be complete.
Exactly.
Today would have been worth it. Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
I want to say a very special thanks to Russell Isaac Long, the man responsible for writing and mixing all the music tracks used here at the NoCo. If you'd like to access any content in addition to these episodes, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TheMoreYouKnow. If you have ideas for people you'd like to hear on the show, hit us up at the email themoreyouKnowco@gmail.com. Until next time, peace!